Hi guys, welcome to Lifestyle with Anya. And just as I was saying in a prelude to all of this, the next segment of any videos, and actually probably with some interwoven with some of their live sessions as well that I will be doing, is going to be around the brain and the mindset. And this is really my way of trying to find my own way out of my own struggles. I went through some pretty traumatic experience that left me with a triple concussion. I won't get into the way I was going to start. I was going to start with just the brain anatomy and then get into the chemistry, the chemicals, the dopamines, the serotonin levels, and so forth, how to balance all that stuff out, what happens when it gets out of whack. But you know what? I'm starting to think that that's going to be just a little bit too dry. So I'm going to just kind of mishmash some of that stuff, eventually get into the mindset. I want to empower you to think that you know that you can actually achieve just about anything you put your mind to it, quite frankly. So why don't I start with something more fun? More fun is actually some of the fun facts about your brain. How about this? Get this. Your brain has over 100 billion neurons. Those are all of the nerve cells that actually are responsible for your body functions. Your brain is involved in just about every single thing that happens to your body, whether you're going pee, whether you're thinking, whether you've got anxiety, depression, whether you want to have sex, whether you don't. Just about literally anything, whether you go to the bathroom. That's another one. Involved in everything. Your eyesight. Did you know, for example, that your brain does not process the color magenta? Magenta is a very kind of strange color of a purple, a little bit of a pinkish purple. Basically, the only thing that really happens is that your brain does not see green when when it sees that color. Your eyes do not necessarily are the ones to see. It actually happens through the neuroceptals behind your eyes. I want to have this a little bit more fun right now. So we've got 100 billion neurons. That is also supported by additional 100 billion supporting cells. It is involved in every single aspect of your life, whether it's your breathing, your sneezing, anything. Here's a funny thing. There was a guy, by the way, that actually hiccuped for 4 years constantly. It was a continuous hiccups. And they thought that maybe, you know what, hiccups quite often is, or yawning actually, even yawning and hiccups. Actually, it's a natural body reaction of trying to put a little bit of oxygen into your brain. And that actually wasn't true for this particular individual. It turned out he actually had a brain tumor. When they removed that, he actually stopped yawning and stopped having hiccups. Isn't that interesting? There is more supporting cells within your actual brain stems themselves that there is stars in our known. I'm saying ours because we really don't know how big the universe is. And I really don't like saying the known universe because that really generalizes it. And well, who are we really to know how big the universe really is? We're still discovering galaxies, and I'm not going to get into the physics, although that's an interesting subject as well, and I will tackle that one at some point. Like I said, there is really not a subject that I haven't touched, primarily because I love self-help stuff. Neuroplasticity is going to be another subject we're going to touch base, but right now let's get back into the business of fun facts. Your brain weighs on average about, let's just say on average about 2% of your whole body weight. They say for men it's about 2.9, for women it's 2.7, that has nothing to do with your IQ level at all. Einstein actually only had the 2.7, his brain itself, because he actually allowed it to be dissected and weighed, so they actually use his brain for that. I believe personally he was a little full of himself, but to, you know, think that he really was the smartest thing, when actually if you think about it, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and so forth, those guys are all pretty much the same level of IQ as he was. He just simply was what we now consider the father of physics. He is responsible for quite a bit of the actual math, but that math, by the way, is kind of outdated these days. There's a whole new set of mathematical equations that most people don't even actually realize that. The modern math is a little bit different. Anyway, back to your brain. But did you know that even though it's only 2% of your brain, it actually does absorb over. It's a pig on power, on energy, on glucose specifically. So it takes over 20% of anything you really put into it. So we'll get into the nutrition about that too, because for those who like drinking pop and eating chips, well, think again, because what you put in is what you get out. That's really how simple it is. Let's see, what else can I come up with? Did you know that your brain can actually create a whole new set of neural pathways? What does that mean? That means, for example, when I got triple concussion, most of it was behind my prefrontal lobe. That is actually where your memory is stored. And so I had a problem, and I still do struggle with that, which is really how the whole thing started for me. I wanted to help myself. When I discovered the whole idea of neuroplasticity, I was just like, amen, wow. That means, you know what? I have a fighting chance of remembering stuff. I do not have to have a flighty mind. Even though I do have ADHD, OCD, and just anything else you want to add to it, just go ahead. I hate titles. I can't stand them. I can't stand the word normal. Who the heck really defines what normal is? Do we just sort of all fit into a proverbial standard? Like somebody just came up and said, hey, this is cool. It's just like, hey, it's cool to wear one earring, not two. Somebody came up with that. That's a fad. That's not really a fact, right? So I love being, you know what? I'm not normal. And I'm proud of it. I don't like the word normal. Normal to me just simply means I fit into what everybody else is. I like to think that I'm a little bit more special than that. A little unique. How about that? When I sit there and I think about things, I don't think like a normal person, because most people think within certain boxes, and I don't. I always say there's always another way. So how about this too? So when it comes to your brain, it is actually, there is a direct connection between your brain and your gut. So that feeling sometimes that you get in your gut, you really should sometimes pay attention to it. Here is another thing too. When you go to sleep and you sleep in a brand new place, your brain actually goes into your amygdala, which is I'm mixing the whole anatomy into it. It's basically a gland within your brain that also deals with the fight and flight risk, which basically means either you freeze, you go forward, and so forth. Speaking of that, did you know our brains have actually shrunk over the thousands of years? The reason for that is actually that, because before our brains were bigger, because we had to run away from bears. We had nothing else to strive. Right now, the human really is at the top of the food chain. We weren't there before. So that's another part. Here is another one too. Your brain is the softest tissue on your body. And I believe over 70% of it is mostly actually liquid. Yet it is actually supported by the most dense bone, the densest bone, pardon my Polish here, densest bone on your body. So that is very important too, which is actually very interesting. You know how concussions happen? You've got ridges on the inside, and it actually separates your brain. There's certain components to your brain, your left and your right side brain. Your left side is supposed to be the logical side. Your right side is not. I will actually show you a couple tricks in the future how you actually can tell. I can tell you a fact and then I'll tell you a story. You'll see which part of your brain actually works. You can actually close one eye and you'll see something completely different to the other. That's also true too. So this is going to be an interesting part. So we're going to dive into some of that. I'm going to mix up the fun facts with some stories, with some interesting stuff with neuroplasticity. By the way, this has been probably coined so many times. They have actually tested the brains of taxi drivers. Guess what? The taxi driver's brain is much more malleable than the rest of our brains, which basically means taxi drivers use a whole bunch of different neural pathways. Why? Because they have to remember different roads. Roads get closed, so something else has to open. They have to memorize all of those maps. So there is so much cool stuff that's coming up. This is just the beginning, guys. Then we're going to get into some of the psychology. Then I want to talk about communication and how that really works along with that. And how do you actually connect all of that stuff? What I'm going to do is enable you to have a much, much richer life than what you believe that you're capable of having. I don't believe there are limits. I think the only limit that is there is the one that you set on yourself. So this is just it, and I'm already at 11 minutes, and hopefully the guys can cut it and slice it and dice it and have it fun. So take care.